I swear for Jesus, if that is Luke. Is that fucking Luke? Oh my God, who is this? Oh, is that Ahsoka? Oh, who is it? Oh my God. It is fucking Luke.
I saw Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, with my parents. I really enjoyed the tone of Revenge of the Sith. And my mom had a blast. My mom, who, unlike me and my father, is not an artist, is not a storyteller, really appreciates not the specific story per se necessarily, but the fact that someone created the story, the fact that someone had the imagination to come up with these narratives and these characters. And I think that enthusiasm is really epitomized in the fan reactions I saw to the season-ending episode of The Mandalorian.
Are you a Jedi? I am.
Which I also think really sort of exemplify the moment that Joseph Campbell spoke about so much. Joseph Campbell, the professor of literature, religion, and mythology. Who had that wonderful limited series on PBS, I forget if it was the 80s or the 90s, called The Power of Myth, which is actually in book form, quite readable book form now. His work that had to do with the nature of our cosmology, in terms of religion, in terms of mythology, and literature, which obviously comes from what for the majority of human history was the verbal passing on of stories. And I think cinema is perhaps the art form that most exemplifies or epitomizes the experience of early humans gathered around the campfire, looking up at the stars, and then back down at each other, experiencing the visceral world and trying to create the understanding of our cosmology and how it's tied to the world around us and within us. A big issue I have is the dominant role of cinema existing only in the escapist realm since 9/11. Now, escapism has played more and more a part in the lives of Americans and all industrialized countries since the Industrial Revolution, the dawn of the 20th century, whether it be sports, the proliferation of creative writing that everyone now had access to and time to consume, whether you're talking about Nobel Prize worthy stuff, or whether you're talking about pulp fiction or romantic fiction or poetry or whatever counts as a hobby or recreation, card playing, music, to the point where now, over 100 years beyond the Industrial Revolution, beyond the 20th century, the 21st century now, I feel that entertainment dominates our lives. A question I often ask and examine is, what are the dimensions of what we spend our time consuming? What are the dimensions of entertainment? Now, I've always felt that, though I'm a fan of Star Wars, right, of Marvel, of sports, but not just in Star Wars or Marvel, or the facsimile of humanity that is in sports. You can get lost, or as I prefer to think of it, you can get engaged in real life humanity, in the actual human saga. You can get lost or engaged in history. A real disappointment I had in the motion picture Harriet, about Harriet Tubman, that came out last year, was how it really didn't explore or portray the complexities of her journey, of her missions, of the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad must have been fascinating. Fascinating in its logistics, fascinating in terms of the courage of the people, both in white society and in Black America, obviously. And yet, the picture really doesn't explore it at all. It kind of shows Harriet Tubman just going back repeatedly, picking up more and more escaped slaves. Now, she's not flying and doing it. She doesn't have a green lightsaber. But she may as well, for all that the movie explores. When there are real rubber hitting the road aspects of the nature of her humanity in doing so, and the complexities of the Underground Railroad in pulling it off. You know, Major League Baseball just announced that it is giving the 7 or so Negro leagues that existed between 1920 and 1948 Major League status, which is wonderful. Josh Gibson hitting .441 in 1943 over a 69-game schedule would become the new record for the highest batting average in a single season. He would also be the last player to ever hit 400, but cannot really be compared justifiably to Ted Williams, who hit over 400 in 1941 over what in the major leagues was a 154-game schedule. Plenty of players tear it up for 60, 70 games. You know, the integrity of that record. But to know Josh Gibson, you have to know his story. And I think even more than the stats, particularly with the Negro Leagues, it's the stories of these people that often were greater in number than the stats, because they didn't necessarily have the finances, they didn't necessarily have the organization, they didn't have a season that was as long to truly see the truth in the pudding of the stats as you could for Major League Baseball. But the stories in corroboration with the stats of Satchel Paige, of Cool Papa Bell, of Josh Gibson, the accounts of the Negro League players that survived into nearly the 21st century, in corroboration with the stats. These are stories, and Major League Baseball also has those stories. That's the reason why Major League Baseball is so rich. And we're lucky in that they're not simply made up stories, although some of them may be. If you have the option of the truth or the legend, print the legend, I understand. But we live in a time now where we can navigate the manners in which stories and cold hard facts may complement each other or enlighten the veracity of either. And I wish it were the stories of these Negro League players that we cared as much about as we rightly care about their statistics. Bob Kendrick, who is the president of the Negro League Hall of Fame. This is a man who, for decades and decades, had the passion, had that recognition of the aha in his fellow human, in his fellow demographic, if you will, as an African American and a baseball fan, to do all the research, to know the stories, to not just know them, but to be such a fan, to have so much passion that he can curate the stories of these people. He can be a champion for something like the Negro Hall of Fame. These are people that live in him every day. Melissa and I are children of immigration. You know, think about someone, whether you are a full adult, whether you are a child, who had the courage to go someplace they don't know, where they speak a language they don't know, where nothing is assured. Even coming here legally, nothing is assured. And carving out an entirely new life for yourself, putting one foot in front of the other, participating in society, helping build society, reaping the rewards of your work, of your courage, of your belief in what you're doing, in the belief of tomorrow for your children. Single parents sacrificing every day, working every day, making miracles happen unbeknownst to their children. Or hell, married parents, as we've seen every day, every year, but especially this past year of the pandemic. Parents in general making their children's lives happen, making sacrifices. These are stories. These are cinematic human stories. There are people that deal with mental illness from moment to moment in their lives, not even seeing so far ahead as the next day, but the next hour. There are people for whom getting out of bed every morning is a battle, is an accomplishment. There are so many people with the courage to confront so many different battles, whether they're private or public, whether you're rich or poor, privileged or not. Humanity is filled with these nuances. Long, long ago in this galaxy, on this planet, we came up with narratives of gods and goddesses or personifications of nature, functioning as fictional narratives to explain our cosmology. Now today, we understand our cosmology in ways that perhaps make those narratives obsolete. So is it a wonder that escapist fiction and escapist narrative now holds that place in our hearts, where the religiosity of those prior narratives and fictions no longer do? The new godly narratives of today sort of do occupy that place in our hearts, don't they? Though they have little reflection of who we actually are.
Yeah, it's gotta be Luke. Look at the belt. Look at the belt.
Okay.
Well, next week? Great. We're safe. Incoming craft identified.
I think it's actually fucking happening. Because that's a blue R2 unit in the X-Wing.
The Jedi.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As cool as Luke Skywalker is, there are Earthwalkers who can touch our souls. As gratifying and awesome as T'Challa is, there are real Africans who are awesome. I think the catch is that we are perhaps en masse more invested than ever before in the notion of justice, let's say, but maybe less than ever before are willing en masse to invest ourselves in those actual narratives, those actual stories that actually reflect that endeavor. And we're more invested than ever in fictional narratives, as long as they don't tie us to real life. Now that's always been an aspect of cinema and maybe the arts in general. But there used to be a world where Harrison Ford may be in Indiana Jones and Star Wars, and there's obviously humanistic elements there in terms of love, sex, violence.
I love you.
I know.
Academic endeavor, the fight for justice. Even though none of us could really relate to anything like that in our real lives, it was escapist.
You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Whether it's Indiana Jones or Star Wars. But you could also have Harrison Ford in Sabrina exploring romantic love in the real life, in the real world, with another person, with familial politics, economic realities and discrepancies in the real life, or regarding Henry, presumed innocent, the legal system, real pedestrian violence and family dynamics that any one of us may see reflections of in our own lives. And the marketplace doesn't have as much space for both sides of that coin anymore. I would love to see such purely cinematic treatment and adoration given to historical stories of us. Imagine if we could get that pumped about life and each other.
Oh my god! Oh my god! No!
That's fucking Luke Skywalker!
Oh,
who is that? Who is that? That's Jedi! Who is it?
oh my god, it's Luke! We cannot even see the color!
Ah, it's a Jedi!
Yes! Yes! Oh, it's Luke! It's the green lightsaber, it has to be Luke! Adam? Oh no. Oh, Adam? Oh! Oh, that narrows it down a little bit! Check his hands. Check his hands.
He senses it! Oh no!
What color? What is it? Who is it?